Good morning, 5A. We're just going to look at a little bit of historical context in Macbeth today. We've got the cool webpage from Columbia University in New York. It's good, informative. It gives you a good overview of what's happening at the time that Shakespeare's kind of writing a little bit of a kind of the events leading up to it, and then kind of a little bit of a generalization of what was happening. And what I want you to do is obviously read through the kind of key things that Tudor Stuart dynasties, quite a difference. And so what you've got here in a sense is the Reformation, which was kind of when the sort of Protestants decided to break under the ideas of Martin Luther and kind of devolve themselves from the Roman Catholic Church. By all means, make some notes on this. It's not entirely necessary to do so. If we go down, for instance, one thing that's probably really quite important is part here, in a sense, what you get is this idea of kind of the shift in political fortunes, and also this idea that you've got the New World. I mean, obviously, America was founded, obviously, under the Elizabethan era. That's why in America you've got Virginia, which is actually named after Elizabeth the First, on the belief that she was a virgin queen. So you get the idea. You've kind of developed English literature's kind of exploded into this particular things, and some of the greatest writers in English literature, obviously Donne, Marlowe, John Spencer, and of course Shakespeare, kind of refreshed under these particular circumstances. This particular part here is quite interesting. How they viewed the Queen, quite interesting. King James is very important to us, and we've been doing a James the sort of seventh of Scotland, was responsible for the King's Bible in 1611. It's very, very important in the study of English literature as well. And then it goes on to the kind of the execution, obviously, of Charles I. And in a sense, we kind of want to come to the idea of London theatre. So in a sense, kind of this stability, this thing gives us a real idea of how things can work. Here, I'd like you to take some notes. For instance, this idea that this was really only operated for time up until about 62, when the Puritans kind of came in and sort of closed down, tend to be sort of open air venues and on the side of London's bank. So what that means is it was on the south bank of the city. The city is divided obviously by the Thames, and in the Thames, in a sense, you have this sense of quite a division. The city of London to the north, and in the south are, in a sense, the Badlands of where kind of like, gambling and bear baiting and all those kind of venal things that used to go on during the time, to keep it away from the city of London. And so also you understand too of how Shakespeare needed to be, in a way, invested in his company. He wasn't a writer, he was in a theatre company, so in a sense he didn't get credit for writing the plays. He really got paid for being part of the Chamberlain's men and the King's men. And again, some other things you see is like how it was, and basically what you've got here is the idea that really, in many respects, theatre was something that everyone went to. It wasn't exclusive. It was for rich people. In fact, it was the great kind of level of respect. You could pay a penny and go and see a play. And that was very, very important for, in a sense, that the whole of society met at the theatre. And so you've got some things in there where you've got the idea of, interestingly enough, how pigs closed down, Obviously, ironically reflecting going through at the moment. It's important to kind of understand and when that their primary function of play is be performed, and that's very important. So when we are studying Shakespeare, it's important that we understand it as a performance and not just literature. Okay, it's written in poetic form, but it's meant to be performed, and that's very, very important. Um, yeah, and really at the end of the day, people didn't read his plays, people watched plays, and that's what you did. Um, yeah. Again, look at some of these trees and kind of have a look through and make some simple notes that just will jog your memory. And this is very, very important. All right, so it gives you a bit of a context. All right, now to Macbeth and James the First. And again, you've kind of got this dramatization, and I suppose it was quite topical at the time. And Shakespeare actually uses, in a way, an old kind of of a king called Macbeth. So in a sense, it's kind of there was a character. But here we get this sort of sense of what's happening around the time you've got the gunpowder plot and various things that are happening. And also, the first sort of thing about witches, in sort of in many ways, witches personified evil in a sense, because in many ways people were quite superstitious of things that went wrong in their lives. They didn't have any rational explanation for that. So obviously things. But what comes through, certainly in Macbeth, when you look at it from our point of view now, is the kind of characterization of that fear of the supernatural, that belief of the supernatural, and rational belief. Which probably about, a good 150 years later would kind of, the ideas of kind of, the Enlightenment come through, and, quite prescient in many ways. And what's important is go through and just quite simple notes that give you an answer. So when we come to read the play or look at the play, we've actually got kind of stone of reference. It's not just Macbeth, but you see it as a play of its time, and also kind of reflecting the kind of things that were going on in Elizabethan England and Jacobean England, obviously under James the First as well. And they're very important. Okay, so today we're going to kind of help through, make some notes and get a better understanding of the historical context of the play. Thank you.